Welcome to the Northern Powerhouse interview series, where we're unashamedly spreading good news by interviewing Northern businesses and their successes during the pandemic. Subscribe to be notified of new interviews or click the link in the description to take part if you'd like to be interviewed yourself in a future episode. Great, well, welcome to Northern Powerhouse. These are business success stories series. Today we have with us Simon Bollon of Boutique. So welcome, Simon. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. If you'd like to introduce yourself and your business and talk about some of the things you do to help your clients, that would be great.
Well, okay, so Boutique, so founder, managing director at Boutique. We are a channel agency based in Leeds, but we work with clients across the country. Our premise is we guide clients on where best to invest their marketing spend across the plethora of channels across media, buying and planning, digital marketing and PR. So critically, we work with clients from a strategic point of view to give them a channel agnostic view of where they should be best investing their marketing spend. We work with mainly entrepreneurial fast growth businesses because they fit well with us in terms of the culture and dynamic of our agency. But we also deal with some bigger international conglomerate style businesses. But when we do, we tend to work with smaller marketing departments who are reliant on our kind of expertise, if you like. And aside of that, I act as a non-exec director investor in a recruitment business. During lockdown with my partner, though I have to give her 95% of the credit, we also opened a organic grocers in Harrogate, which has got bigger plans beyond the store.
Oh, wow.
So we've done some other things during the lockdown as well.
Oh my goodness. So it's been busy.
Yeah, very busy, yeah.
It's so funny, isn't it? Because it seems like the total polarization of not doing much at all to work. I mean, I've worked harder over lockdown than I've for the last 20 years, even in all honesty. Not that I'm a lazy guy, but just...
I think the Groundhog Day has made us feel like we're stuck in mud a little bit, whereas actually, if I look back as to where we were, we've now done a 12-month period since, obviously, for this year. And if I look at the objectives and targets we set, we've done it. And from a personal life point of view as well, it's been a very busy period. I've done a lot, just about to buy a house as well, having sold out of a business. And so, but it doesn't always feel progressive because we've been stuck in these four walls, haven't we, for such a long time? Yeah. So I think it probably, in our mindset, we feel like we've been a bit walking in treacle.
Yeah, it definitely feels like that sometimes, doesn't it? And just that, I found it personally that being able to do business in this manner using Zoom has been really valuable, and transactionally is probably more as effective as face-to-face in some manner. But it does come with its own challenges, I think, of using Zoom. But the fact that you can do so many meetings in a day without breaks is both a benefit and a challenge.
And actually for us as well, we've got clients all over the country. So if we were going to go to a meeting in Bracknell, it would be a full day. Whereas now it's the hour it's the purposeful hour whilst you're on that call with the client. And then you've got the rest of the day to be productive as well. So having said that, I still see the value in face-to-face. And I think you get more out of face-to-face time than you do out of a Zoom. And it's that little bit of something you can't necessarily explain that you get from face-to-face, both from clients, but also with an office and time with your team.
Agreed. I definitely agree with that. I think the only thing we found with ourselves and the thinking moving forward is transactionally, doing the work is pretty much as effective in this manner. I take your points. But what it means for us is if we continue to do this, and I think we will, both in individual and group events, is that then the social bit that we often do in a meeting, so the bit of, let's call it chit chat, but that sort of bit, we can actually turn into a proper social event. It's worth investing and say, let's get our clients together and just have dinner rather than a bit of work and a bit of socializing. It'd be interesting to see. It's only a plan, but I think I'm really quite excited about it.
I think I like the idea that I think you're right, that transactionally we're fine. We've done the work, we've continued to do that, and every business has been able to fulfill some work. I think it's two other elements of behavioural and attitudinal, which are not the same when you're in a room on your own all day. Certain for our business, obviously different for different businesses, but the behavioural elements, the way that we interact with each other, the little touches of learning that you get from overhearing conversations, the development for some of your staff by being exposed to the attitudes, behaviours, occurrences that happen in an office environment. That we're definitely missing out on that.
Yeah, agreed. I think, as you say, internally probably is more important. Is more important that connection with our team on a regular basis. So I guess looking back over the last 8, 9, 10 months, how did the outbreak affect you?
Well, I started inquiring about how to become a teacher. So I think at the end of March, when we went into lockdown, society panicked. And we all did the same. I sat staring at an Excel sheet with my financial figures on, whilst my phone didn't stop ringing for 10 days with clients wanting to pause activity, knock activity on, or restructure what we were already doing with them, etc. So we suffered some pain very early on, and like everybody else, I was in a state of panic. Now I've got a massive fear of failure, and it drives me, keeps me up at night, even illogically most of the time. And I think when we were in that phase, I actually felt very calm because it was out of our control. It made me really look at the business forensically. And I was confident that actually, if this goes wrong because of COVID, I can hold my head up high because we've got a good business, running very well, and we've got great people, we do great work. So actually, if it goes wrong, I'm not, I don't feel particularly accountable for it. So whilst I'm a person with an innate fear of failure, I actually felt quite calm through that tricky period. But then it turned around pretty quickly. By the end of probably the end of April, we saw business starting to come back, and we have around 40% of our clients are in the home interest space, and they had the best time ever. We were no longer paying for expensive train tickets or petrol or parking bays or buying coffees or expensive lunches or going out for beers after work, and instead people's bank accounts were swelling. And they were spending more time in their homes, so we all spent more money on our homes. So we've got clients who have literally had the best 9 months of their business's history, which for some has been life-changing. Privately owned independent businesses, and the revenue that they've seen in the last 9 months has genuinely been life-changing for some of them. So fortunately, we did pretty well. We were down ever so slightly on where we wanted to be from a financial performance point of view, but all things considered, we kept all of our staff, we've kept our clients, we've had really high levels of employee engagement. I think we've been closer to our clients than ever before because honesty and transparency was a necessity. It wasn't desirable. You had to have really frank conversations with clients. And they were doing the same in return, and that created a greater level of client intimacy. That brought us closer to clients. We communicated more with clients about what was happening for us, what we were seeing in the landscape, what was happening across different sectors, and I think that was really informative and useful for clients. So when I look back, actually, there were some really good things that came out of a tricky trading environment.
Yeah. It's fascinating, isn't it? It's pretty much two sides of a coin. It's either been really bad for some people or really great for others.
Of course, and I mean it's horrendous for the hospitality trade. If you're in that trade, I feel such sympathy for them. It's just a horrendous space to be in. I've got friends in that space. And I'd like to take credit that we work with the clients we did and therefore we're okay, but it is very much by luck. There are other agencies in our space who work in retail and travel, and of course that market's suffered dreadfully. So those agencies in that space have. So we're fortunate. I'd like to take the credit for it, but we are just fortunate that we work in this place, in the areas that we do.
Yeah, well, that's great. You know, obviously you're good at what you do, so you've helped, and your clients have wanted to keep engaged with you. So that's it. That's good.
Yeah.
And hopefully, I mean, you know, I've been unfortunate or fortunate enough to get, this has been sort of the third recession, and I remember certainly the first one. We were quite a young business, my first business, and it was actually in hindsight very valuable, because it actually getting through it was a win. So getting through it was the win, and it meant there was a much more open playing field when we got out the other side. And I'd like to think with things like hospitality and travel, etc., is that there will be a bit of an explosion that won't totally mitigate the challenges they've had, but you know, there should be a boom.
Yeah, and they were all as busy as they're all as busy as they could be in when we were allowed out, weren't they?
Yeah.
So they did bounce back. And there were restrictions in place, so they weren't able to get as many bums on seats and so on. But yeah, I think maybe different. I might be wrong, but maybe different this time. I think we'll come out of this with more positivity and buoyancy and a greater willingness to want to support businesses.
Yes.
And I might be biased because I've just opened a shop, but that sense of people wanting to contribute and support their local community. I think when we went out for dinner last week and talking to a couple who were by us, who were talking about wanting to go out and support local businesses because they were open again, they wanted to do their bit. And I think there'll be a lot of that across society in all sectors next year.
I couldn't agree more. So let's just go a quick plug. Where is the grocery business?
It's called Joy in Store. So if you find it on the internet or on Instagram, right, Joy in Store UK, and it's a retail store on Colbath Road in Harrogate. Colbath Road is a bit of a people keep calling it a mini London. My partner lived in Walthamstow prior to moving up here, so probably a little bit of that vibe has influenced it. There is a real sense of community there, so it's a really good location for us to be in.
It is. It's an interesting place, isn't it? I know it fairly well, and it's
great.
It's just different from the main part of Harrogate.
Yeah,
sure. Wonderful. So, what? Just looking at the outbreak of the situation, what were some of the key adaptations you had to make?
I think the working from home thing is obvious. That was a big impact for everybody about how you go and work from the working. We had a degree of working from home. We had a degree of flexi time. But what that really meant for us was people worked from home and they were relatively out of touch. They were relatively distant. Whereas what we had to get to was so that we could keep open lines of communication. So it was the communication part for us. So we had to quickly work on Teams and Slack. They were there, but they were soft touches. They were tools that we used, whereas now they are the lifeblood of the business. So things like Slack, Teams, Zooms, that was the key challenge for us about how we adapted. But we're an agency full of 20-something, very highly intelligent, well-qualified 20-something. So adapting to new ways of working and technology was pretty easy for us, to be fair.
Right.
And it did work really well. I think the key thing when I look back was over-communicated. We just over-communicated with everybody. Teams, clients, constant on calls. Every Monday morning we have a team meeting. We just turn that virtual. Every Friday afternoon we have something called Swigs and Slides, where we're an agency, right? So we've got a fridge full of beer and wine. So on a Friday afternoon, it's an open fridge policy, and we do sessions, education, training sessions for the full agency. All of that turned virtual. Individual teams. So the agency split into 3 teams. Each individual team has calls every afternoon as updates on work progress, etc. So it was adapting to that level of communication and changing that communication was really important. I think where we'll have to adapt back is in the culture. We've developed 3 micro cultures within our culture, because we've got 3 groups of individuals in teams. and there's little micro cultures, which are not bad things. They're all good things. And the micro cultures, I was assessing it and reporting on it to the teams last week. The individual micro teams are fine and good. One is very much about performance and outcome. One is very much about care, for example. That's what we identified as, and they're all fine. But we've got to get back to how do we ensure that we're owning the culture across the entire agency, and we're not just a bunch of people doing work for people.
Yeah, bringing everyone back together again. On that note, I think of teams and things, is how did you have to adapt your own leadership style? One of the things people, we talk about is you can't not communicate. So just how you walk into an office will affect how people think about you and the business. And obviously, how did you replace that sort of level of communication?
I guess came to the fore a little bit of what do I expect from the team, and do that first. So lead from the front. I mean, this is no glory thing, but I haven't had a day's holiday since March. I'm not advocating that or saying I'm some kind of hero for doing it. We couldn't go anywhere anyway. But I've been present. I've been on top of everything. I've ensured that I'm visible and available.
Right.
Certainly in the early days when people were probably rightly worrying, we had calls every day, and I was sharing numbers and I was sharing updates as to yesterday this happened with this client. And being a bit more open. And I guess I probably just was more, I don't know, integrity. It's probably the word I want to use. I was very much me. Listen, this is shit. We're going through a tough time. We've no idea where it's going to get you to. But I'll tell you what I do know, and I'll tell you what I can control, and I'll tell you what I am going to do. And I think that was probably important. As time went on and business returned and the numbers improved, the number of calls got less frequent, the volume of detail shared into the business was probably less required by the team, so the volume dropped. But I think it was the level of communication. There's another person who runs the business with me who rather selfishly got pregnant, so she's been on maternity leave for the entire year as well. She's just easing her way back into the business at the moment. That probably amplified my need to be present, because it was a role. But at times it was hard. I think overall, the volume of information we're giving into the agency, then we could do with stepping that back up again. But it's a bit of a slog. It's hard work, isn't it? So I don't punish myself too hard if I think maybe I could have done better at times.
I don't think anyone should. I really don't, Simon. I think people have put a lot of effort in for lots of good reasons, and we can only do what we can do. I think this is a time when we all got to celebrate what we have achieved, even if that's just still being here, and what we've done for others.
Yeah, agreed.
So looking at wins, what would you say are the biggest wins that you've seen, however big or small, and whether they're internal or external?
I would say the closeness with which we've created relationships with our clients. I mean, we've always been good at that, but I think it amplified. I think we're doing employee engagement, probably losing a bit of that sense of togetherness and being part of a team. Having a minor drop in our employee engagement feels like a huge win, and we've remained profitable. We'll put in a positive EBITDA number this year. It's funny, I said at the beginning, I'm friends with lots of other people that own agencies, and I said at the beginning within the first month, I said we've all become the leaders we always thought we were. So we always thought that we were really honest and open, and we always thought we were ruthless on the numbers. We always thought we were direct with our clients. We were probably performing at about 60% of that. And I think in that critical window and I guess this happens all the time, you probably see this, when the shit hits the fan, when you're at a critical point, you realize how much better you can be. You start, you're really performing at that level. And I'm a sports fanatic, and I love the idea that when your back's against the wall, that's when you really pull out the performances, rather than cruising through cruising through training, and then you've got to go and perform on a Saturday, or when you enter the Olympic Stadium, whatever it is. I thought that when the pressure's on, and I think that's what a lot of business leaders have found, or been found out, in truth, that when it got really tricky, now you've got to earn your dollar. Now you've really got to perform. And I think some have thrived, and obviously some won't survive. So yeah, it's certainly an interesting time.
Yeah, definitely. It has been absolutely fascinating. What I mean, of the adjustments that you've made over this time, what will you keep on doing? What are the things that are actually?
We were always a little bit apprehensive and not all in on the idea of working from home and flexi time,
right?
Because we're about hard graft. We're an agency that knuckles down and works hard, and no other agency is going to out hustle us. And that's kind of a key principle of the agency. And I think the idea of flexi time and working from home, for me as the agency owner and founder, it kind of felt like it went against that value. But, you know, hands up, I got that wrong. People work from home and have been phenomenally efficient with it. So moving forward, we will have a much better balance of working from home and working from the office. And when we are in the office, having flexi time. The office is still critically important to us. We're a people business, and that little bit of magic that happens, that added value, that little 1% margins, I think comes from being together. I think we're good at doing what we're doing, but I think the added value, the going above and beyond, that's the bits that happen when you're together, when you're in the office. So we will return to the office, but it won't be in the same guise.
Yeah. I think that's going to be true. Many businesses.
For sure.
It's so fascinating. I mean, I had my first business meeting in Leeds yesterday, funnily enough, at Park Place, and I said to the guys, "I'm quite excited. It's quite exciting to go out and have a meeting." But it was so quiet. I mean, it was just so different. And obviously, people are still, still working from home significantly. And as you said, there's just no need to be at the office all the time. It's it is an old
we've got people that travel a fair distance as well, which is costly and time consuming and draining when you're sitting in traffic, or your train's late and it's raining, or you can't get on the train because it's all those things that people experience. It is painful. So to be able to get a better balance is I'm pleased that we'll be able to offer that.
Great. And looking back to March, when we actually went into the first lockdown, what might you have done sooner if with that beauty of hindsight?
I don't think there's anything we did late in the game that we wish we'd have done earlier. So when we went into lockdown, it all happened at once, and we did everything at once. And I think a lot of it was instinctive. I instinctively knew I need to over communicate with my team. I need to give them full visibility of our numbers. They need to know that they're safe and in a job, that we've got retained shares, that we've got retained cash. So even if we have a horror show, we've got months and months where we'll be okay because we've managed the business efficiently. So I don't think there's anything we would have done differently. But I definitely think that as I said before, performing at that highest level all the time, I think there's a lesson to be learned there about we float along like this, and then we perform high, and then we'll drop down. If we could just nudge ourselves up, if everybody in the business could just nudge themselves to that, pick up the phone to a client instead of sending them an email, do it quicker. Be more responsive. If we could do all of those things all the time, we'll be 10% better as a business than we are now. So there's those things that we're trying to emphasize into the business. as we move forward.
Yeah, it's interesting, Simon. We as an organisation, we're a business coaching organisation, so the primary thing is helping people with their business grow, and that's what people probably come to us for, the systems, the processes. But the coaching part we've developed very significantly over the last sort of 8 to 10 years of performance coaching, and in fact we've brought in a lot of sports-based coaching people. In fact, our director of coaching, who's my personal business coach, is an ex-Olympic badminton coach. And I think looking at the people we've worked with and both personally and as an organisation, that ability to help people perform better under pressure and the coaching to do so has been invaluable, probably, from thinking of what you just said, probably invaluable over the last year more than before and perhaps afterwards, because as you said, we had to just get, as leaders, we had to get stuck in and make things happen.
I think, and about and also it's the graft as well as the application. You don't get to being in the 100-meter final of an Olympics by skipping training or just turning up and doing the minimum required. If you do that, you don't make the qualifying heats, do you? And I guess the reality is the majority of businesses do not perform consistently well enough to make the final of the 100 meters.
Yeah.
But imagine if everybody in the business did at all times. Reality is it's not always that easy. Like, that's exhausting, that's hard, that's tiring. But if you can offer more holiday, if you can offer that better flexi time, if you can offer the working from home to give them the tools, the framework upon which to really be able to, you've now got everything you need to go and perform.
Yeah.
And that constant communication. We have a thing called Joy Squad. It's a bit of a cheesy term, but it's about it's a group of people from within the agency that get together to talk about how we can be better as a business. So how can we generate more joy for the team? None of the senior management team are in it, and we have not involved in decision making. They do it themselves. So taking it to them and saying, so what can we do more that will make you better at what you do? And it's a really worthwhile, fruitful process.
Brilliant. Sounds great. No, anything like that I think really adds value. We always talk about, we have people that had, who's had a fun, because it's okay to have had a fun. Let's make sure we have fun, because when you're having fun, you perform better. It's
well, to be fair to our Joy Squad, they are very good at organising piss-ups.
Brilliant.
They do have a broader remit, but the thing that they're really good at is organising social events.
Absolutely, and they're the people you want to do it. So it's like absolutely, it should be the right people. So, it's fantastic. So we're obviously, as I say, we yesterday was a wonderful day for good news, hopefully with the vaccine rollout and the changes. So just looking past this situation, when we get back to whatever a new normal looks like, what are you most looking forward to?
It's the team, seeing the team, actually getting everybody together, and we've had the same. We haven't lost an employee for, I think it's 22 months. Nobody's left the business for 22 months, which in agency landscape is extremely rare. Partly because, of course, for the last 9 months, the world has changed. But there's a real sense of togetherness with our team, and they're very social. So if there was one magic day where we were told, right, you can go do what you want, we would all be would be enforcing a day's holiday, and we'd all be going to spend time together and go to the pub. So I'm very much looking forward to getting the team back together and seeing everybody, and getting that dynamic and that buzz going again of everybody being together.
Brilliant. I was talking to someone earlier, and it feels like for the people we've been speaking to and ourselves, it's almost like that reappreciation of the simple things.
Yes.
Just that social interaction, going down the pub, which and
I think it's funny, because when we went into lockdown, started to appreciate the fact that, because I live in a beautiful place in Harrogate, and I'm next to some big gardens and the woods, and going out walking there every day, you appreciated nature, and I appreciated that I wasn't getting up at 6:30 and leaving the house at 6:55. And I was able to dwell for longer and pick the kids up from school more often without it feeling like it was really imposing on my diary. And all those things became extremely grateful for. And now I'm missing all the things that I had then that I don't have now. You know, that's human nature. The grass is greener and all the rest of it. And I'm sure when I go back to the office, within a couple of weeks, I'll be cursing the fact that I'm in the office and I wish I'd have stayed at home today, and I wish I'd have worked from home. But I think we've all become more mindful as to the way that we live our lives and spend our time. When we all had these hours of, particularly people on furlough, what are they doing? How are they spending the time? And being more mindful and thoughtful about how they live their lives. And I think that I'd like to think that as a society, there'll be some really positive changes that will come out of it as a wider collective.
Me too. Second that, and I think there will. I think, you know, it's to say that often it's the simple things. Just appreciate that we have, you know, we do live in nice places as well. I think, you know, I like you are in that position where, you know, I can't imagine having been locked down in a small flat where there was no ability to walk out very easily to walk outside during that sort of first lockdown phase. The ability to just do what we've done is wonderful. So no, great. So what might you have learned about yourself over this period?
Oh golly, I wouldn't, not a huge amount. I've realised that what I knew was important to me probably was, I always moaned that I wanted to be able to do the school drop off and pick up more. And it was one of my targets for this year, was to give myself the space to be able to do that more often, manage my diary better, manage my time better. And I've been able to do those kind of things. I've done a lot of drawing because I've not been able to go out so much. I've done a lot of drawing and painting. And I've realised, and I kind of knew that I wanted to do more of that, and I have done. So I probably have just emphasised the things I already knew about myself.
Yep.
I had confidence. You know, if you'd have said to me in January, this is going to happen in March, do you think you'll cope with it as a leader? How do you think you'll manage that process? I think I probably would have had a good degree of confidence in myself. So I think I probably have done what I would have expected to do. But I also know that I work better around people when I've got that buzz around me. And there are times when walking from the bedroom into the office or downstairs to make a cup of tea and back again, and I've really struggled with my motivation, or I've felt a bit stuck, and I've not really, what am I going to do now? And I've got this long to-do list and I couldn't prioritize. And some of those times I felt a little bit, and if I'd have been in the office, I'd have probably given myself the chance to go and chat to somebody or discuss one of the things that I was going to be doing. I'd have gone and had a conversation with somebody about it. So I guess I have learned that I do need to be, if I left the agency scene and I couldn't possibly do something working on my own, I'd be okay at it. But I know that my performance levels are when I'm with people, when I'm in groups, when I'm interacting, when I'm adding value to something that other people might be doing. And so I think this process and this isolation has probably compounded that knowledge.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've never thought of it quite, some of the things you've said there, and I guess, and it's not true of all leaders, but I guess a lot of leaders need people to lead. I know that sounds an obvious thing to say, but
good point. Yeah,
some people can be leaders in isolation, but you know, I'm probably similar to
yourself. I guess there's the difference between leading and managing.
Yes,
leading is the softer. The behaviours, the what you say. The managing is the more formulaic frameworks and structures, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I guess some people are really good managers. Others are better at leading.
100%. And it's understanding if you have to do, but you know, if you are doing both, when am I doing which? Because they they do need to be decoupled to a certain extent, or certainly time needs to be allocated to each to make sure we get the best out of individuals. So no, I really get that. So I'm just interested, looking to the future, what, if any, do you see as the major challenges that you may be facing?
I'm not going to talk about Brexit, but I think we've got no idea what that's going to do to the economy and to businesses, to trading. We've got a lot of clients in the home interest space. We're starting to see that the distribution of products and the importing of actual physical product they've got no idea what that's going to look like.
Of course.
So multiply that by every sector in the UK, we've got a problem on our hands, and we've got no idea how we're going to navigate our way through it. So I do think that Brexit will have an impact that we don't yet understand. I think people are, if I talk about my own sector, I think the way that we work, so clients are looking for agencies that are more agile, quicker, responsive, work at speed, are able to flex the service offering, very solution, tell me a problem, and doing it kind of, so you go to some agencies, doesn't matter what problem you tell them, they're going to tell you the solution before you've told them what the problem is. And I think clients now have got more niche problems. They've got what they want from an agency is more hand-picked, it's more selective. And I think that will impact on the agency scene over the next couple of years. And I think we're all more mindful of who we use: smaller businesses, more community-based businesses, more ethical, more sustainable. I guess the one thing out of COVID that probably isn't as at the forefront as I would have expected it to be is the impact on the climate. So when there were no cars, look at what happened to the seas and the skies. And I'm really surprised that that hasn't become a thing for the global community more than it has. I think it's been lost. The impact of lockdown showed what we could do and how we could impact on the planet. And I'm a bit disappointed that that hasn't stayed front of mind. But maybe it'll come back. Maybe we will become a bit more and more mindful of that as we revert back to the roads full with cars and the trains and the impact of what we're eating on the planet, etc., etc. Maybe it will come more front of mind in the next couple of years.
I certainly hope so. It's a great point. I mean, there were those. I remember there was a few photos of various, probably in other countries rather than ours, but wildlife in the middle of cities and things that you just,
exactly.
Within a few weeks, you were seeing deer in cities and stuff.
And the canals of Venice turning into blue water.
I didn't see. Oh, that's fascinating. I didn't see that. Oh, I'll have a look at that. That's the thing, is it? I can imagine why. So
just amazing. See how quickly it shows how quickly the planet can recover certain elements if we're more mindful of the choices we make. Yeah,
absolutely. Oh, that's great. And that's a great point, because I if I'm perfectly frank, that message was quite strong, halfway through lockdown. But I personally, it's a message that's faded, I guess. So I that's wonderful. I agree with that. So finishing on a positive, on the most positive note, what does the future look like for you guys? Where do you see you're going to be in the year, 3 years?
So when I set up the business 8-9 years ago, it was all about growth and growth for growth's sake, and generate revenue and employ more people and grow your ego because you're more and more famous as an agency, and headcount is ego and turnover is ego and all those things. And I did all of that shit. Whereas I think in the last couple of years, probably supported by where we've been in the last 9 months, become much more focused on actually being a good place to work and having a positive impact on our community, on the world. I take great pleasure in having a positive impact on the people that come through the agency, be those clients or employees. We have a guarantee that we'll give 2.5% of our profits to charity every year, which has become a real active thing in the agency, that people are constantly looking at is that we can support and so on. Because without money, then you'll quickly die. And if you're not going forwards, you'll be going backwards. So we definitely want growth. We want to treble the size of the business. but we will only do it in a sustainable, ethical, moral way, working with the businesses we want to work with, and in a managed way. We've got a great business with great people, great clients. We do good numbers, and we don't want to sacrifice that for the sake of growth. But we do think that there is an opportunity for an agency of our proposition to grow. So over 5 years, we want to achieve. We want to do about 2.5 times what we're doing now.
Brilliant. One thing I believe quite strongly for quite a long time is that because I quite often meet people say we don't want to grow because we don't want to change, and my response is the most successful businesses grow because of their values of culture, not despite their values and culture. So keeping strength with values and vision and purpose are the things that help us grow, but we still grow with those same values, because that's what have attracted our clients to us in the first place in general. So we call it the rule of precession, the idea of operating at 90 degrees to the end goal. Even if the end goal is growth, we don't focus on growth, we focus on values, vision, client satisfaction, delivering, and that creates the growth. Okay. So is that make sorry? I
like that. Yeah,
it's if we focus over here, that's going to happen.
That's the consequence.
That's the consequence, the byproduct.
Yeah.
But what it means,
we've got pillars of our business: finance, marketing, sales, people operations.
Yep.
If you do all of those things, they all equal finance. So don't worry too much about the finance, because that's the outcome of having good people, doing things in a good way, looking after your clients, and having a good sales and marketing machine. The finance and the growth is the outcome.
Absolutely.
And you couldn't not grow if you were doing a really good job. So it's a bit counterintuitive to say you don't want to grow. Well, if you're really good at what you're doing, you have to grow, because more people will want to work with you or give you work.
Yeah, I think it's the perception that growth is negative. It creates negative change. In other words, too big. There's this phrase that a lot of people use of corporate. If we become corporate, and all I say to people is, look, in that vision of corporate that you're talking about, that's where the vision is on the wall, but it's totally ignored. Whereas if you keep the vision and the values in our hearts and everybody's hearts, and we recruit on vision and values and purpose, then we'll grow with that, and because of that, not change. And I think I think it's crazy, because there's so many great businesses we've met that could grow more and more effectively, but because of who they are, not despite who they are.
I think a lot of the time they're looking at the competitors and saying we don't want to be like those guys.
Yes.
So imagine if you were the same size but not like those guys. Imagine if you were the same size of them but with the look and feel and values that you already retain. Then wouldn't that be a really cool business to be part of?
Definitely, and I think we're going to see more and more of them. So I can't wait. Well, it'd be great to come back and see, both this business, but also, how you're going to get on with Joy. And I'll probably pop in, because I live in there, so hopefully I can pop over at some point. So thank you so much. Maybe we can, come back and have another interview in about a year's time or so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Simon, look, that's been absolutely brilliant, and there's some real learnings in there for many people, I think, about leadership and about change and resilience we talked about early on. So thank you so much for spending the time with us.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for watching. What was your takeaway from today's interview? Please post it in the comments below, and subscribe for all our upcoming videos, or click for the next video here.